Earlier today, Governor Andrew Cuomo of New York made an announcement. Hospitalizations for those with the coronavirus are at 15 to 19%. He told us the other day that of the 3,000 ICU beds, 80% were already occupied, which seems to be fairly normal. This means we can expect our hospitals to reach capacity at a certain point. He went on to say that we don't have nearly enough beds. We will need double the hospital beds for what's to come. He then went on to say something that absolutely freaked me out. I'm not going to lie. That the peak of the coronavirus pandemic will be in 45 days, which means we can expect this to finally end in potentially 90 days. Now, I'm not saying that's absolutely true. Maybe the peak will hit in 45 days and it will fall much faster than it rose. I just don't know. But if the graphs we've seen from the Washington Post, the calculators from the New York Times show that there will be a peak and then a drop in a nearly symmetrical fashion, meaning I think it stands to reason we're in this for the long haul, potentially 3 months. And this, I'm not gonna lie, has me absolutely freaked out. The one thing that you must always remember, never panic. You need to think calmly, strategize, be rational, and come up with a real plan for what you are going to do moving forward. We've already seen panic buying, which is not helping anybody. Go out and get your supplies if you haven't already. This is getting much, much worse. And Andrew Cuomo has said you can expect more drastic measures, more closures. In New Jersey, I'm already under what they're calling a strongly recommended curfew, though it is being reported by some as a straight up curfew, and residents are not to leave their homes after 8 p.m. In France, you need documentation to leave your home, and they were hit hard. They were hit sooner than us. It's entirely possible that as this gets worse and as the numbers increase, we will see ever increasing draconian measures. First and foremost, do not let these people enact anything permanent. Keep that in mind. There's already people aching for that permanent power. Surprisingly, now we're seeing a rather bipartisan effort to implement some kind of major stimulus to provide thousands of dollars to families and people who are put out of work by this. But before we move forward with some of these stories that I want to show you what Andrew Cuomo is saying. I need to make sure you understand why this virus is so serious. Earlier today, I talked about Spanish flu and why it was silly that people were claiming Trump was being bigoted or conservatives were bigoted for calling the coronavirus the Chinese coronavirus. In this article from Stanford, they talk about the mortality rate of the Spanish flu, and they talk about the fact that it was a novel virus. We are facing something very similar today, albeit there are different circumstances. We have the internet, so keep that in mind. We have better medical technology, and there was a war going on at the time. But here's what they wrote in 1997. Now, this is significant for two reasons. The first is that this was written well before any of this current political stuff started happening. There are a lot of people who want to politicize this or make you scared with viral rumors or lie or manipulate information for political gain. This is from Stanford, and it was written in 1997 and apparently updated a bit in 2005, well before any of this happened. Also keep in mind, though, the other significant factor is that it could be out of date. We may have learned new things, and it's very likely we did. But they mention the Spanish flu had a profound virulence with a mortality rate at 2.5% compared to the previous influenza epidemics, which were less than 0.1. That's actually what we've been seeing now. The flu has a 0.1% mortality rate, and the coronavirus globally is at 3.7. Naturally, this is for older people. The Spanish flu, for a lot of factors, primarily affected younger people. It's a particularly complicated story. But they go on to mention that this was a novel virus, meaning that people didn't have herd immunity. That is why everyone is freaking out right now. Please keep that in mind. But let's take a look at first with Europe, and then the latest update, what's happening now with Andrew Cuomo. From the Washington Examiner, we are at war with coronavirus. France requires documentation to leave your house. We may very well get to that point, and that's going to be really, really scary. I hope at this point you're paying attention. Look, there's a lot of people on TV. There's a lot of pundits and personalities who are going to try and convince you the markets are great. You should buy. They're going to try and convince you everything will be fine. Everything will be fine. It may be the case. I personally think we're going to get through this, but I'm also not going to lie or pretend. I'm actually decently worried. I wouldn't say I'm necessarily, maybe scared might be a good word for it, but I'm not like freaking out or anything. I'm sitting here in my house doing things like normal, albeit we went out and bought supplies a long time ago. So naturally, I'm not particularly worried about it. My business operates at home. although we are expecting everyone to take a major economic hit for a lot of reasons. And there are crazy videos of people raiding stores. I'm a bit worried. Okay, I'm getting close to, freaking out a little bit. A little bit. I'm not gonna act like, I don't know, some of these plastic people on TV. I'll be honest. This story has me worried. And what Andrew Cuomo said has me worried as well. And I think if you're not worried, you're probably not paying attention. And there are a lot of people still downplaying the severity of this. After announcing a 15-day lockdown for the entire country to contend with the coronavirus outbreak, the French government enacted a policy that mandates French citizens stay inside their homes unless they have official documentation stating a reason to be outside. French President Emmanuel said on Tuesday the paperwork was necessary after French citizens refused to stay inside. We are at war, said Macron repeatedly during a speech on Tuesday. All French citizens from Paris to Marseille are required to download and fill out a form with their name, birthday, and reason for going outside. If persons are caught outside without the form, police throughout the country have been authorized to levy fines as punishment. The system is similar to the one instituted in Italy. People are out and about because they have to be. They have to prove it to the police, said Jim Bitterman, CNN's senior international correspondent. There are 130 checkpoints in Paris alone. On Monday, Interior Minister Christophe Castaner said more than 100,000 officers would be dispersed throughout the country in an effort to enforce the new restrictions. Castaner told people to stay at home and added that the fines for abusing the restriction would range between $90 to $150, up to 135 euros. Yellow vest protests, which emerged because of a fuel tax rise in 2018 and have raged since, continued this weekend as thousands turned out in Paris only a day after Castaner banned public gatherings of more than 100 people. In the U.S., President Trump recommended people not gather in groups of more than 10 and suggested the virus could linger up until late summer. The novel coronavirus has killed more than 7,000 people worldwide and has infected more than 180,000. There's a reason why I read you that Stanford article before showing you this. A lot of people see these numbers and say only 7,000 worldwide. It's not a lot. It's increasing exponentially. And we are trying to stay in front of this. That is the point. If we do nothing or make the same mistakes they made 100 years ago, which I think is very unlikely, this could become a historical, deadly pandemic. For now, it is a historical moment. This is something that we're going to remember for a long time. And we're going to look back and think about what we did before this got bad. And hopefully we do the right thing. Otherwise, it'll get really bad. And we'll look back and say, if only we did more. I can't tell you what to expect or what should or shouldn't happen. But I can tell you that the government of New York is taking this very, very seriously. Now, I live in New Jersey. As I mentioned earlier, I'm under curfew. New York has said expect more dramatic measures. Governor Cuomo said more dramatic closings and are possible going forward as officials continue their attempts to flatten the curve. The governor said more coordination with regional states remains a possibility. Italy got to the point where the only thing left open were grocery stores and pharmacies, Cuomo said. We're not there yet, but I'm telling you, we have to get down the point. We have to get down the point of spread. As of Tuesday, the governor said no new closure rules would be enacted, but going forward, more forced statewide closures would be a possibility. There's a lot of people right now tweeting scary things. There's one guy with a tweet going viral from the USDA, basically saying they may start rationing food, and that is unnecessary and that is freaking people out. But I'll tell you this, as much as some people might criticize me for bringing it up, it's out there. It's going viral. And it's better that people know and understand than just ignore these things. But one of the points being made is that these measures are being enacted because young people are ignoring what's happening. There's a lot of complicated history with the Spanish flu. But one of the things they mentioned was that there was a previous flu pandemic, which gave some older people herd immunity or partial immunity, which made them less susceptible to the Spanish flu. Younger people didn't have this, and so they were hit much harder. But what's pointed out in the history of the Spanish flu is that the first wave was primarily targeting the elderly. And then in August, a second wave hit, which went after young people. And younger people are not paying attention. They're laughing. They're joking. You even have the jokes about the boomer remover. They're not taking this seriously. I can't tell you what to say or what to think. I'll just let you know that's what's happening. The governor said he spoke with President Donald Trump Tuesday morning about more resources for the state. The government cannot meet this crisis without the resources and capacity of the federal government. I spoke to the president this morning. He is ready and willing and able to help. As of Tuesday morning, there are 14 confirmed cases in Monroe County. 79 are in mandatory quarantine locally. Mandatory quarantines are here. Hard lockdowns are here. Businesses are being told to close, and restaurants can only provide takeout in the tri-state area, which is New Jersey, New York, and Connecticut. These actions are already being implemented across the country. Many of you acted early. I went out months ago and bought supplies. That's maybe why I'm not super concerned. I can only imagine there are a lot of people who laughed at this and ignored it, and now with these measures being implemented, realize they have no supplies, and those people are going to panic. So what more can I say? Cuomo announced Monday the state mandated closure of businesses, restaurants, bars, schools, and more in an effort to contain the spread of the virus. Our primary goal right now is to slow the spread of this virus so that the wave of new infections doesn't crash our healthcare system. And everyone agrees social distancing is the best way to do that, Governor Cuomo said in a press release. There will be more updates soon. As of the filming of this, the president is actually giving a statement on what's happening, so I'll have some more updates later today. But I'd like to show you something that a lot of people are actually kind of freaking out about. This is a man named Robert Caruso. He is a verified Twitter user, and it says his bio says, can-do civil servant, USDA, former Department of Defense and Federal Reserve in Washington, D.C. I don't know who he is, but Twitter has verified him, and his bio says what it says. Someone tweeted, if you are not already obsessed with your constitutional rights, this is a good time to become so. They make power grabs during times of crisis. This is 100% correct. People are already trying to institute what they call what we jokingly call emergency socialism. Now, there has been bipartisan support for a major stimulus and bailout of the American people. No opinion from me. I understand why they need it, and I think a lot of industries are getting hit by this. I am not completely insulated from economic downturn, though I work from home and I produce information. I do commentary on the internet. I am admittedly not going to feel it the same way a restaurant or a server or a waiter is going to feel this. So I understand why they're calling for these provisions. However, in Spain, it's being reported they've nationalized the entire private portion of their healthcare system. I don't know the full details, so fact check me on that one. But we can see this is a point when governments move in and take action. Now, what you need to consider is that sometimes the action is absolutely a good thing. This is what governments are supposed to be doing. But temporary emergency powers must remain temporary. Never let these people try and seize power because we are scared or worried or need to move quickly. Now, this man, Robert Caruso, said, power grabs. I can't believe you have an Italian surname. Whatever that means. There were thousands of people in bars this weekend. Who's being oppressed? List them. Point them out. The man responded, again, reading comprehension failure. You may have some incomprehensible reason for finding it difficult to believe I am Italian, but I am not at all surprised that you're a government flunky. I'm not here to comment on the feud between these two people. I don't care. But Caruso went on to say, this is happening whether you like it or not. There will be curfews. Freedom of assembly restricted. And boy, it was not wise to snap at me. If it gets really bad, food will be rationed. Take a wild guess which department would ration the food. Is he trying to imply that as someone working for the USDA, he is going to decide who gets to eat and who doesn't? I don't know, but that's what people are saying, and it is a scary thing to see coming from someone working in the government. But I'll tell you what right now, what's got me really worried. Donald Trump yesterday, this could go to July or August. Cuomo today, 45 days until we hit the peak. Amazon has announced they are suspending non-essential deliveries. Amazon's whole food delivery no longer delivers. As far as I can tell, I went to the site, tried to see maybe I can order some extra supplies. You cannot. There are videos emerging from just the other day of lines of hundreds of people outside of Costco. And I'm gonna tell you, man, listen, I am not someone who is here to try and incite a reaction, get an emotional rise, nor am I here to pretend like everything is perfect and just, you can mosey along like everything's fine. Naturally, there have been people who have criticized me saying that I'm inciting the panic and all that stuff. Don't care. There's nothing that I could or couldn't do. The information is out there. The reactions are there. The best I can do is inform you and tell you. It is a fact that if you keep a sound mind and draw out your plans, you are substantially more likely to survive any kind of crisis. I don't know how bad this will get. I am personally becoming worried. I'm freaking out a little bit. A little bit. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you like some people would want me to because they're concerned about a potential for panic or what the media does or doesn't do. I don't know. I'm talking to you like I would talk to any one of my friends. This is what I think is happening. So we're going to make sure we have our supplies, and we're taking this very, very seriously. And as I mentioned on the podcast last night, Timcast IRL podcast, you may have seen it. I built a van for mobile production. It's fully equipped. As these lockdowns become more and more severe, there comes a point where I hop in that van and I take off. I don't know where that will be, but I will tell you for now, it is not the time or place to be thinking about things like this. The mayor of New Jersey has called on people who live here to work together to get through this and prevent a massive virulent spread. He said, we need everybody to do this. And you know what? I think we need some community right now. And I think we need to come together, drop the partisan bickering, and do our best to say, we need to take action on our own to contribute to the greater good. I have absolutely no problem abiding by a curfew, not going out, because I understand why it's necessary. I'm glad that in the United States, we are not arresting and fining people. And I hope that remains the case. If you are not, as this man said, already obsessed with what constitutional rights you have, I recommend you actually start looking this stuff up right now, because now is the time. I'll end by saying a couple more things, man. A couple months ago, when I started tracking this and watching it emerge, my first reaction was like, meh, not going to be that bad. We've seen stuff like this before. Within a couple of weeks, I think even like a week, I was like, okay, I was wrong. It's definitely getting bad. I remember when I reported that Italy had a few isolated cases. I remember then when I reported a week later that Italy was now locking down northern parts of the country. And then when they got fully locked down, and now they have over 25 more thousand people infected. And the death rate in Italy is at 6, I believe it's around 6 or 7%. Last number I checked was 7.1%. Italy has a much older population, so there's a lot of factors as to why they're being hit so hard. Governor Cuomo has made it clear. This will only be getting worse. If the virus continues to spread and peaks within 45 days, then I think it's fair to say in the next 45 days, expect more harsh measures, lockdowns, quarantines, curfews, etc., maybe even a hard curfew. I couldn't imagine being in France right now, needing documentation to leave your own home. France, and they're not just talking about the big cities, it seems. They're talking about even rural areas. So I don't know what to tell you, man. I'll just tell you what I told you, and I'll leave it there. Stick around. Next segment's coming up at 4 p.m. at youtube.com/Timcast. That is a different channel, and I will see you all then.